Hi, I'm Tara Judelle, and I come originally from the United States. Currently, I'm recently based in Athens, Greece. Ever since I can remember, I've been looking for ways of understanding what this life force energy, for lack of any name to call it, because in my family I wasn't brought up religious, but I knew from a very young age that there was something bigger than me, and I looked for ways to feel it, to identify with it, and specifically in terms of movement, because my family was a very intellectual family, and what I felt was missing the most was a form of vocabulary that expressed this living consciousness in and as my body. So starting with sports and then moving into dance and then Tai Chi and different forms of movement, improv. And eventually I found my way into yoga. That started a really mad love affair with yoga. Probably after 10 years of searching these different types of movement, 20 years ago is when I actually stepped into the yoga classroom, and I haven't stopped since. After that first class, I basically started taking about twice a day. Like I couldn't stop. By that time I was a writer in Hollywood, and that meant that I was procrastinating a lot, and and so I was running to yoga every chance possible. And then at about 4 years after starting, I had just made a film and written, direct a film, and I felt very out of my practice, and so I decided to sign up for a teacher training. And the first day of my teacher training was 9/11, and so that rupture in consciousness really made it that I couldn't go forward doing what I was doing. And I didn't know I would teach yoga at that point, but at that point I stayed with yoga, and that quickly turned into teaching more and more and more. I was certified as an Anusara teacher, which is a form of yoga that's based in tantric philosophy and uses biomechanic principles to align the body in certain principles. And I loved that and was practicing and teaching that for many years. At a certain point, I met the world of what's called Embodied Anatomy, which is that the feeling into what you are, rather than just looking at it in a book or seeing lists of origins and insertions of muscles or bones. It's anything that you are, you can tap into, you can feel, and from the feeling of it, you can then have agency of it. So when I feel my kidneys, for example, I can move in a way that honors the pathway of the kidneys, and I can also use them as support, I can use them to heal, I can use them to move from. So that world is coming from a body of work called body-mind centering. It started with the inquiry of how to introduce these embodiment practices, which were existing mostly in the world of modern dance, into the arena of yoga. And what it did for me was it bridged a lot of the tantric philosophy and the asana. The missing component for me was the tapping into the embodiment of these things, which is the same felt sense that the chakras, the meridians, all the subtle body practices, where they came from in their origins, were based on people feeling into what they are and interpreting that. And my observation was that that was something that was not so present in the yoga world I was inhabiting anyways. While it had been there at the origin, it had become a lot of asana, a lot of very physical based asana and some philosophy, but they weren't coming together. The project was how to bring these embodiment practices first into the asana, because that's a vocabulary people can understand, and then to tie in the philosophy with that, and to use free movement meditation, asana, all of these different ways in an effort to blur the seams between meditation and action. So that movement and meditation and those component parts start to fall one into the other in an attempt to become fully embodied, to be fully what we are and reclaim the parts of ourselves that maybe we've forgotten or turned our back on, or we don't identify as the felt sense of what we are. So that was the origins of the project. And then I met my teaching collaborator and co-creator, Scott Lyons, and he brings to the table somatic experiencing, a PhD in psychology, a vast experience with dance and movement. And so bringing these worlds together is what we're calling embodied flow.